This is Laura Cross of Rebel Seed Films and Entertainment with a podcast from the archives. This Film Insights episode was originally released in February 2014. Today's guest expert is producer, actor, author, and consultant Tom Malloy. In 1998, Tom was one of the lead actors in the film Gravesend, produced by Oliver Stone. The film became an indie cult favorite. When the film failed to make him into a household name, Tom decided to learn as many facets of the movie business as he could. He quickly realized that the single most important aspect to learn is raising the money necessary to shoot a film. The problem was, no person or book was available to show Tom how to do it. So, over the course of 8 years, he created his own method and authored the book Bankroll, a new approach to financing films, which features precise and practical details of how he raised more than $15 million in 4 years for a number of independent feature films. Tom has written and produced the thriller films The Attic and The Alphabet Killer, the romantic comedy Love and Dancing, and the documentary High Roller, the Bob Perry story. He's appeared in principal roles on Law & Order, Third Watch, Kidnapped, The Siege with Denzel Washington, and Anger Management. And today Tom is going to share tips and insights on increased opportunity for producers in film financing, how to use the finder's fee method to find potential investors for your film, how to use the vested interest approach to acquire ideal financiers, how to entice a financier to make the initial investment and get the first money into your project, how to vet your potential investor and find out if your rich guy is really real, the 3 rules of pitching investors, the perfect pitch package to make your presentation, and implementing an effective follow-up system to close the deal.
Hey, Tom, welcome to the show. I'm so excited that you're here.
Thank you for having me.
So, Tom, you know what? I really believe that it's such an exciting time for filmmakers, and I'm wondering, where is it that you see increased opportunity for producers in financing their films?
Well, I think that, so much in the business has changed that, even from when I wrote the first edition of my book, Bankroll, to the second edition, it was like that was one of the main reasons, because there was such a change in 2 things. One was the technology of the cameras and the video editing systems and all that. And the second was the fact that no one was buying DVDs, and that was really for such a long time. It was a shippable product, a physical product that, required packing and shipping, and there were certain numbers that could be counted on. Those don't exist anymore. So whereas somebody might look at it from the outside and say, oof, that's the film industry has taken a hit. And it has. Truly from the kind of the banking crisis of September '08 to now, it's taken a hit and the budgets have lowered. But, you could look at that in the other way and an opportunity and say, well, I can make a film now for, $500,000 that 5-6 years ago would have cost, $3-4 million. And that's the good news, is that you have access to this technology and budgets and actors and crew willing to go, and cut their fees to be able to work on films that are good quality films. So I think that's the best side effect of that, is that you can make a movie, $500,000, get a legitimate cast of known talent, crew that's been working for a long time, and that's something you couldn't do maybe, even 5, 6, 7 years ago, and you can do it now, and then I think that's unfortunately what you have to do if you want to make a profitable movie, because it's just the revenues are just not there anymore. And the people out there that are thinking they're going to get their old salaries piss a lot of people off or go broke. So it's a big mistake. And so I think you just got to change with the times and ride the current wave of lower budgets, higher production value, and making kind of less, less over more projects instead of one big home run project.
Yeah, so if you adapt, there's a lot of opportunity out there. So probably the most frequent question that I hear from aspiring filmmakers, and I'm guessing it's the same for you, is where do I find people to invest in my film? And you have a few strategies that you call, quote-unquote, tricks for finding potential investors. Can you share some of those tricks for finding the money?
Well, one of the things that I, kind of preach out there is to try to find what I call in the book, the second edition, I call the vested interest approach, meaning who would be interested in financing your film that is not just looking at it from an investment standpoint, because I think that's the mistake, is that it's not a traditional investment. It's a higher risk investment. And even if you've lowered the budget, so where it's not, you're not asking somebody to lay down $5-6 million in cash, you might be asking them to lay down $500,000. It's still a significant amount of money. So if you can try to look at your project and say, who would be the person to put money in this? It's a project about World War II, and you need to go and start to target World War II veterans that may be high net worth individuals. I call them in the book H&Is. And so you're looking for these H&Is that may have a vested interest in your in investing in your film. So the main reason that is that then they're investing for something else. Like for instance, I did this movie Love and Dancing, and the investors in the film, I would say 70% of those people were dancers. So the dance style was West Coast swing, and they really wanted to see that. They were passionate about that style of dance. They wanted to see it go out to the world, and so they were the people that invested in the movie. So vested interest is extremely important. Then people say, well, how do you find those vested interest people? Well, I am constantly putting the word out to people when I have a new project. Hey, I'm looking for investors. I suggest in the book what I call the finder's fee approach, which is to reach out to all your friends and say, I'm looking for, X amount of dollars, 500,000, let's just say, and I would, if you put me in touch with somebody that has this investment, I'll make you an associate producer of the film, and I'll give you a fee. And, so then they could get maybe usually a 5% fee, like $25,000. So you're putting that out to your friends and your family and everybody. That's incentive, because now you're offering value, because you're just kind of using in that sense the 6 degrees of separation. But, so you have all these kind of finders, not, working for you on the clock, but you have all these people that you're throwing these fishing, casting the fishing pole onto the water, and sooner or later you're going to get a bite. And somebody says, oh, yeah, I got a guy, that I work with that has a ton of money, and he's looking for this kind of thing. So the first is to look at the mindset of who you're trying to get to invest, and then the second is to reach out to everybody you know. You're always be pitching. That's what I say, ABP, always be pitching. You're at a bar, and you're going up to get a drink, and somebody talks to you, and, oh, what do you do? I say, well, I'm raising money for a film. I'm looking to raise $500,000. So you always put it out there so that you're kind of collecting those, you're putting it out in the universe, that you're collecting that money. And sooner or later it's going to happen.
Yeah, those are great strategies. Tap your network and find those people who would have a vested interest. Now, obviously, an essential aspect of financing your film is vetting your potential investors. Can you share some tips on what you call finding out if your rich guy is real?
Yeah, it's tough. And I would say that you'll never be perfect at it. This is one of those things where you can get better and better, and then you still get curveballs. But, you'll take, besides taking visual cues, I always joke in one of my seminars that somebody set me up with a person that he thought was an H&I, and when the guy came to the meeting, he was on his Bluetooth, and he was missing a couple teeth, and he went away for a second. I said to my friend, I said, Dennis, I don't want to judge anybody, but it just occurred to me that if the guy has money to invest, he probably would have had his teeth fixed. And
yeah, if you can't afford dental work, you're probably
yeah, you probably don't have the money you don't have the liquid capital invest in film. But and at the end, of course, this guy starts pitching me on movies. So anyway, the bottom line is, you have some visual cues, what kind of car they drive and things like what they're wearing, but those don't always work. I said that as well, that the guy in, shorts and flip-flops is the guy that's the eccentric millionaire, but then the guy in a three-piece suit is the scam artist. But one of the other things is also to Google that person, to try to find information. I try to do all that kind of research on their companies. And, you really can do that through LinkedIn and Google and just trying to find out as much as you can. I mean, and you'll be amazed on how specific you can get with that person. I remember this one investor, when I had first met him, I already knew things about him, and I brought up, I heard that you had some trouble in this. He owned restaurant. I said, I heard you had some trouble in one of your Dallas restaurants, and he was so surprised. And right away, I mean, it wasn't like he was like impressed that I had done my homework on him, and I always try to vet as much as possible. But then there's stuff, that, and I say this as well, is that there's stuff you do when you meet that person for the first time. And one of the first things I do, if I sat down in front of a high net worth individual that I was going to pitch, and he said, well, all right, tell me about your film, I would literally say, well, wait, hang on. I would love to hear more about your business. Because people really do like to talk about themselves, and, in a lot of ways. And as well, though, I'm listening to every single thing he or she is saying and kind of putting it in the database and then just going, okay, and let me hear their whole career. And and I'm truly fascinated by a lot of their stories. So it's not like I'm just listening to it, giving them, just turning a dead ear towards them. I'm actually listening to them and going, oh, wow, this is incredible. I mean, I get their backstories, and from that I can take cues as well as to what kind of money they have.
Yeah, that's great advice. Now, for presenting the project initially, you use, and you encourage other filmmakers to use, what you refer to, I think, as a modified business plan, which is, more of a pitch deck or a pitch package, and that's something that you say you would give to a potential investor prior to sharing the complete financial projections, the marketing plan, the PPM or offering memorandum. Yeah. What are the key elements of that packet, and what should filmmakers focus on with that initial pitch deck?
Well, the key is what I call it is this confidential information overview. So it's kind of legal speak for we're just talking here. I'm not asking you, I'm not soliciting an investment. I'm just showing you what I'm looking for, and the aspects of which are all covered in my book and covered on my audio recordings. But and the only reason I say that is less about pitching me and more about the fact that I can't go to every detail on it because this would be a 4-hour phone call, but. I will say that, that's really going to be more of a bullet-pointed, pitch packet, bullet points, a synopsis, maybe a quick chart of other similar films. There's a super important page called the hypothetical investment return, which is not a projection in any way. I will put on a page a hypothetical investment return, meaning if the movie costs $1 million and the movie generates $1.8 million, here's how that's split, and it comes back to the LLC. So I have that page, and that is the most important page. I can't, there's too much to go into detail right now, but that, what I say is the most important because every single investor I've ever closed, I have gone over that, whether it be on a whiteboard, whether it be right in the pitch packet, whether it be in a cocktail napkin. I've done that as well. And that's, because I realize they need to see the process. You're not saying they're going to make 1.8 on the 1 million. You're saying, you can make less, you can make significantly more, whatever there is, but you're showing them if it makes this, here's how it comes back to you. So that's the one thing I could stress is that page is in there, and that's really key to the whole thing. Here's the overview, the bullet points, a nice looking presentation, a couple nice graphics, the synopsis, but here's the hypothetical investor return. So that's
really where the filmmakers should be focusing, what the investor is going to get back, or what the intention is for the investor to get back.
Well, it's the intention. No, but it's more the process. It's not a projection in any way. I'm not saying they're going to make this. I'm saying if it makes money, here's how it comes back, just so that they understand that. But they want to see, they want to understand it and wrap their head around it. Okay, if it makes money, here's how it's going to come back. Okay, and then I have another page describing, the distributors that we're going to go to and how that process works and how it's potentially going to make money. And if it does, here's how it comes back. And it's really just getting that process across.
Right. So you've found and you've vetted your potential investors. You have your confidential overview, is that what you call it? And now it's
confidential information. Yeah.
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
I'm sorry, it's a confidential information overview, CIO.
Okay,
yeah.
So you've got your CIO. Now it's time to have the pitch conversation and make that presentation. What insights do you have on inviting investors to be a part of that opportunity that you're offering?
Well, there's I remember did this one thing. I did a whole course on pitching once, and I did one of the things that was really popular was I talked about the 3 mistakes people make when they're pitching. And, you know, looking at it from a mistake perspective, the first mistake is that they have low energy. And that right away is a killer right there. You know, who do you want me to, you know, give you my millions of dollars and you got low energy and you're not excited and enthusiastic? I mean, this is the moment in that pitch that you need to geek out over your project. You truly need to geek out because that's the only way you're going to get this investor to geek out and get behind it. But if you could say 10 is the highest energy and 1 is the lowest, you come at that investor with a 4, you know, well, I got this horror movie and, you know, we got some stuff behind it and, you know, it could be kind of scary and, you know, no one's going to invest in that movie. So, you know, you need to come at that person with a 9 or 10 and they're going to, through osmosis, they're going to pick it up. The second aspect I say is not knowing the investor. And we just covered a little bit of that before, meaning you are going in there and you're pitching, you know, a brutal horror movie and true crime, and then it turns out this person only wants to do faith-based religious films. You know, doesn't matter how great that package or that pitch is with a horror movie, you're not going to get it. The same goes for the amount of money that you're trying to raise. If I'm going in to a guy that's worth $5 million, which is great, and I'm asking him for $1 million, no, he's not going to give me 20% of his fortune. That's ridiculous. So that's the guy I'd be pitching the $100,000 budget to. The same goes for if I'm going to the guy that's the Forbes 100 list guy and he's worth $1 billion and I'm pitching him about a $100,000 movie, he's going to laugh. You know, he's going to say, "What the hell is this do for me?" And you know, so you got to kind of know the investor. And then the third mistake is the bad project. You go in with an unprepped project where, well, the script's still being worked on, you know, or we're still trying to come at a number or something like that, or you know, any one of those unprepped projects. It's actually worse. It's worse to pitch somebody with an unprepped project than it is to not pitch that person at all. Because if you don't pitch that person, you always can get in there again. You know, you can always reschedule and work it. You know, there's at least opportunity. If you go in and you pitch a bad project, that person is going to think this person is not worth my time and I'm never going to listen to them again because they're just going to waste my time. So those are the 3 mistakes that a lot of people make. If you can do the opposite of those, have high energy, know as much as you can about the investor, and try to prep your project as much as possible, then you'll be in better shape.
Great. Yeah, those are really good insights. Now, the first money in is often the most challenging. Getting that initial investor is key to moving forward. Are there special incentives the filmmaker can offer or should offer investors to entice that initial investment and get that first money in?
Well, yeah, totally. I mean, the risk to any first money in is that it could, you know, the film may not be made. So there's usually 3 aspects that I say would entice that person. Say, let me get some budget here. Let's say it's a $600,000 movie, and you're looking for $25,000 first dollar in to hire a casting director and legal and get a couple fees out of that, you know, so that you're moving, you know, production offices, all that stuff. So you're looking for $25,000, and I'm hoping I'm not, you know, hurting myself on the math here. But that $25,000 obviously is high risk. Higher risk than if somebody put a $600,000 in, because at least in that case the movie's being made. So the $25,000 could be invested, spent, and then no movie doesn't even exist. So there's not even a chance for that movie to fail. So that's where it's more high risk. So the 3 options are this: you can say that you'll raise the budget to $625, so that you're trying to find $625 for the movie, so that as soon as the movie's financed, they're paid back, you know, maybe plus a little bit more, you know, like maybe 125% or something like that, and they'll still retain their percentage. That's one of the first ways to do it. The other way is to raise it as far as the tax credit goes. If you're shooting where there's a tax credit, you know, or a tax, one of the states that has an incentive, you could say that money will go towards paying that person back plus their, you know, their vig on top of it. So again, 125%, you know, so let's just say it was 25,000 and you're going up, you know, and that person will get 32 or something like that. Plus, again, they'll retain their percentage. So in that case, you know, in both of those cases, all that needs to happen is that the film is made and finished, and then they're guaranteed their money back. Do you see what I'm saying there? That once the movie's made and finished, they're going to get paid no matter what.
Right.
In the first case, all the money just needs to be in the bank, and they're paid back. In the second case, the movie needs to be finished, and they're paid back. And then the third way to do it is to promise them the first dollar out of the movie so that they're paid back, almost like it's what is called as a non-recourse loan. So that $25,000 is a non-recourse loan plus a percentage, and so that you can pay that person back from the first dollar the movie makes. You make that person whole again, plus a percentage on top of that, and then they're out. They're out of the movie, and then the rest of the money goes back to the investors that invested in the actual movie. So, again, much more secure than the other people because the movie only needs. Look, if I made a movie for $600,000 and it didn't make at least $25,000, I'm an idiot. I mean, I've done this so long that I can guarantee the movie's going to make at least that much. So, but. So they're in a much better spot. But to say you can guarantee the $600,000 back is a lot different story. So they're just in better position. So any of those three incentives work for giving them a little bit more. The other things I could do is also say give an executive producer credit. Whereas anybody else has to invest at least half of the $600,000 or at least $200,000 to get that credit, that title card. But they can do it for the $25,000. So there's just little incentives like that. To make sure that they're just a little bit more protected.
So give them some sort of exclusive kind of reward for being the first dollar in. Let me just quickly go back to that third option that you gave, that they get the first dollar back that comes in. Mm-hmm. So let me just clarify: you're treating that as a loan, but they're still an investor.
Well,
the reason I'm asking that is, on a $600,000 film, you probably wouldn't be getting any debt financing, but anything over $1 million, you might be getting some pre-sales and then going to a bank, and obviously they don't they require that they get the first money back. Banks always
last in, first out.
Right.
Yeah. But, if it's a non-recourse loan, it's really just a bridge loan, so they probably wouldn't be treated. And that last case is something that I wouldn't do unless somebody really wanted to do it as a bridge loan. That would be I would pick that as the least advantageous. But that's a bridge loan that you'd have to pay back first. It's a deferred payment, really. And that's you'd have to define that in your operating agreement that money goes to that person first. It's almost like an expense of the film.
Right.
And I mean, it's the same thing as I remember on two of the films I did, we had deferred payments to the actors. So they were getting, an extra $50,000 off the first dollar in, so then that was right in the operating agreement. So everybody saw that there, that we got the actors at a discounted rate because we were deferring some of the payment.
No.
I mean, not to go into super detail, but if a bank came in, it's still, this is that first dollar out of money coming back to the LLC. So the bank, it would still, actually the bank would still sit first, and they get paid back. So, it'd just be, that's obviously on top of that first, but then money coming back to the LLC would first go to that person.
Yeah. Now, I frequently see producers who are giving up too soon when it comes to money. Can you talk about the importance of persistence and follow-up and what that looks like?
Well, I mean, it's the persistence and not giving up on the film and still pitching it and also allowing yourself other options. I mean, you can have that singular focus on getting your movie done, and it might, drive you into the ground. And you'll hopefully, if you never give up, you'll eventually get it done. But, I think that you should also be looking to develop other things and have other projects in development so that you have other options. But, a lot of people do give up and, or discouraged. And that's a huge mistake. And they think, it must be so easy for other people. And it's so not true. I mean, my friend just went to a screening of Wolf of Wall Street, and Leonardo DiCaprio was doing the Q&A afterwards and saying how it took all these years and so many people turned it down to make Wolf of Wall Street. And I think, man, that is hilarious. Now, I've personally heard Clint Eastwood talk about his movies, $1 Million Baby and Gran Torino, and how tough they were to get those movies made. And I just think that is hilarious, but also a good thing. And it's like you look and you go, they're having the same problems we are. So it's like nobody's different. And, you know, if you're going to put yourself and say, oh, wow, you know, I can't do this, it's like, well, guess what? Clint Eastwood can't, Leonardo DiCaprio can't either. So, you know, it's just kind of stick to it and keep at it and know that everybody's in that kind of same thing. But if you keep pushing the project forward, trying to add more value to it, you know, and you keep pitching it sooner or later, you're going to find that person that's going to invest in it and it's going to make it a great film, you know, and there may just be a reason why it was pushed for this, you know, this length. So some other spiritual reason that we don't know. Yeah.
Do you have a follow-up system or some tips for following up with investors who, you know, aren't ready to commit?
Yeah, no, totally. I do. I follow up all the time. You know, I have a kind of thing where if I don't hear from somebody, I wait a week and email them again, and that will go on literally in perpetuity forever until that person gets back to me. You know, but I would say, you know, I always bring up this story of this master real estate salesman that had approached a guy who was having a very difficult time in selling, you know, and he asked the guy what was the problem, and he said, you know, I go out to sell a house, person says no, and it really gets me down, and I have a horrible day, and I can't recover from it, and that's why I'm not making any sales. And the master real estate salesman asked him, well, how many times are you getting no's before you sell a house? And he says, well, gosh, like 25, 30 times. And so the master real estate salesman said, you know, all you have to do is change it, that you're collecting your no's, that if you get to 25 or 30, then you're going to sell a house. And so the story goes that the failed real estate salesman started collecting his no's and adding them up. And once he got a no, he was super excited because it was one step closer to selling a house. And that person became the new master real estate salesman. So I always think of that too, that, you know, every pitch and every no is one step closer. I've always even said that I like a no so much better than a maybe. Because usually they'll say no and they'll say why. And maybe they won't say anything, and you never know if they're going to invest. So that's like the worst thing. So I'd rather have them say no, and then I go, why didn't you? And then I find out why, and either I reshape the pitch for the next time, but at least I know that door is closed, and I make sure that, you know, I can get in there in the future potentially, you know. So, but that's much better than a maybe that could last for years and years and years. So, but collect the no's is what I say. Get out there and keep pitching, because pitching is practice, and truly another tip that I also have is completely trying every approach and not stopping until that money's in the bank. I mean, you could be an investor and you could tell me 100% tomorrow I'm going to put the money in. I'd still probably pitch tonight and still think, I got to keep my options open until tomorrow when you wire that money, because that's really what you have to do. You have to keep pushing to the end.
Yeah, you don't have the money until it's in the bank. Remember that.
Yeah, God, it's true. Yeah, honestly, I always joke that I've become somewhat cynical now, but if you said to me, Tom, 100%, I'm going to wire that money tomorrow, I put that at about 30%. To me, I'm like, it's like a 1 in 3 shot. So that's just, me being cynical, but that's, the unfortunate end result of working this business a little too long. So.
Now, you're an active working producer, and you also help filmmakers and producers finance their films. Tell me how you work with filmmakers.
Well, I did for a long time. Between film projects, I would consult with people, and that truly started as people that read my book and they were reaching out to me like, oh, can you help me on this? And so, I looked at it as much like an entertainment attorney, and I would come on in and shape their business plan, help with their script, help target investors, and we've had some successes with that. So that's when I opened a company called F3 Film and got a couple other filmmakers and producers involved, and then the people that are there kind of rotate in and out depending on, again, their projects. I don't want to have anybody working there that's just an educator or isn't actually in the field making films. I outsource it to people that are working producers and doers, that if you're going to consult with me or you're going to consult with them, the end goal is making your movie. It's not to just go, pay me this and then goodbye, and we did a business transaction. No, it's like, let's make your movie happen. And how is that going to happen? And then there's been times where I've been so busy where I haven't been able to consult for a while. And then there's been times where I just downtime, and I love helping movies, and I'll turn it down if I feel like I can't. At one time, somebody flew me out to L.A., and a day's notice, I was in New York for a project, flew me out to L.A., to do consulting, and I said, well, I could do this for you. And they said, well, we already have that. And I said, well, I could do this for you. And we said, we already have that. And I said, you know what? Goodbye. I don't need, if you already have that, then you don't need me. And then, of course, they're, whoa, wait, well, we need this, we need that. And, but, I don't mind, telling somebody, here's what I could do for you, here's what I can't do. And, but, I think that a lot of filmmakers out there just don't have a clue what to do. They may have a script or something like that, and they just want to get it to the next level. So they want to hire somebody that can push their film forward. And the only complaint I've ever had is that I do get super busy at times and on other films, and I've turned down stuff. But I fixed that now by having a network of other producers that I'll just call up and say, hey, listen, are you on a film? And yes or no. And if they say no, say, well, look, I got a guy for you, I got a gal for you, and here you go. And then they take it from there.
Wonderful. And for your producers listening, underneath the podcast, we have Tom's book. He also has an audio program called Get the Gold. We have the link down there, and we have the link for f3film.com. So you can connect with him if you need some consulting services or you need to move your project forward. Great. So, Tom, I really appreciate your time. I'm watching the clock here. I know you've got a lot on your plate today.
I'm always running out. I'm kind of known for that. I always kind of book myself a little too crazy, but yeah.
So let me just ask you, do you have any final insights or words of wisdom that you'd like to share?
I would say that, if the Dove Simmons line of "there's only takes 9 words to become a producer," which is I have multiple projects in various stages of development. Those are the 9 words, and I think that's a great thing to know and understand. But I think that if I can give you the most important word, it's focus. There was a famous story of Bill Gates meeting Warren Buffett for the first time, and they could not be 2 different people. Warren Buffett's this slow guy from Omaha, and, here's Gates, this computer nerd and hyperactive. And they were with Gates' father, who's an attorney, and he said, if you can write down 1 word that you would attribute to your success, could you both do that on a piece of paper? And they both did it, and they handed it to Bill Gates' dad, and they had both written the word focus. So I'd say if those 2 guys, 2 of the richest men in the world, both think that focus is important, I would say it's focus is extremely important. And that's where I've gotten to where I've gotten when I've gone and said, okay, this is what I'm doing. I've set my goals, and I've focused, and I keep continually taking action. And once that happens, you'll be incredibly amazed at the results that you'll have for yourself.
Yeah. Great. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise and your insights and all of this wonderful value for our listeners today. I appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on the show. And to all the people out there, it's go make movies.